You are with the big story here. Thanks for being with us. I'm Sahar. We're making a start with the top focus now as the weather continues to further intensify in building up to the landfall of Cyclone Amphan. This is the latest that we've been getting you here at Mirror Now. We have already had in a word from the director of the IMD saying that the process of landfall is to begin at 4 p.m. So this is going to be a couple of hours from now. But what we're looking at on ground is the weather already intensifying. As of 12:30 p.m. of what we've seen this afternoon, 95 kilometers away from Digha in West Bengal, extremely severe cyclonic storm has been reported already. Along the coast where the winds are gusty, the trees have already been uprooted. Remember, this is wild, intense weather already beginning to be seen on ground in the build-up to the landfall of the cyclone. Signboards have already fallen off. But in the midst of all this, we have our various teams under the NDRF, the Navy, which continue to remain on standby. Our correspondent Tamal Saha has been braving the weather on ground and trying to get us as many inputs as possible here. Tamal once again with us, getting us further details now on what is being witnessed here on ground. Tamal, of course, people have been evacuated in lakhs already well in time in both states of West Bengal and Odisha. But West Bengal is where the landfall is to take place. West Bengal is the state which is to be the worst affected. What more can you get us, please?
The wind speed has intensified and I can totally feel it. This is the moment before the landfall. Even though the Met prediction suggests the landfall can happen between afternoon and evening. But given the fact that the wind speed has intensified and also the sea has gone far behind, it has receded. Basically, it's an indication that possibly the extremely severe Cyclone Amphan is gaining more strength before it pounces on the coast. Yes, as you rightly mentioned, I'm here at Sundarban's Bokhali area, and this is considered to be the eye of the storm. When it makes a landfall, it's expected to fall somewhere near Sundarban's. It's supposed to cross Digha in the East Midnapur district, move towards Bangladesh Hadia Islands, but the landfall is expected to happen somewhere near Sundarban. So at this point in time, there have been more than 3 lakh people who have been evacuated, and the evacuation process has almost been over, and people have been taken to safe shelter. The advisory is people should stay at home. Under no circumstances should they come out and keep the government and helpline numbers ready. So I mean, the landfall hasn't happened, and I can't even imagine how it will be like when the gale speed, as anticipated, could be around 150 to 170 kilometers per hour. Could even go gusting up to 180 kilometers per hour, 190 kilometers per hour at this point in time. With this kind of intensity, look around. The signboards have been literally uprooted. There are reports coming in from the town as how several trees have been uprooted, and look at that lamp post which is basically literally swinging in the air, and the advisory is that people should stay away from anything which is loose and ensure they stay at home and they stay put there. I saw several tea shades literally flying in the air. These asbestos roofs are quite tricky and quite risky. They can lead to a lot of collateral damage, lot of human suffering. The reason why people have been advised to stay away from all these thatched houses and be at a concrete structure. South 24 Parganas, North 24 Parganas, Howrah, Hooghly, Kolkata, East Midnapur, West Midnapur are all extremely vulnerable. But South 24 Parganas certainly is in the eye of the storm, and certainly the maximum impact is expected here. So yes, the landfall is expected after afternoon and before evening, and as it happens, we can only hope and pray the damage it leaves behind is manageable. The damage seems like unavoidable.
And let's get in a word with the expert with us right now this afternoon. We have DIG Operations of the NDRF, Mr. Randeep Kumar Rana with us. Mr. Rana, thank you for being with us here this afternoon at Mirror Now. We were already looking at wild storms and heavy rainfall that has been reported. Just a couple of hours left since the super cyclone is to make its landfall here. in the radius of the area that we're looking at, which is entirely now going to be inundated with water. Help us understand the preparedness, keeping that in mind.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. Since last 4 days itself, our teams, they are both in the states of Odisha and West Bengal. They have been deployed in the to be affected areas, and they are going from one locality to another for familiarization of the community, both about the preparedness about the cyclone as well as what added precautions are to be taken in view of ongoing pandemic COVID-19. As of now, our 40 teams are deployed in both the states, 20 in Odisha and 21 in West Bengal in the coastal areas. And in some of the places, the tree uprooting has already taken place, and our teams, they are on the job in Odisha, Kendrapara, as well as in Midnapur in West Bengal, where our teams, they have already started moving to the places where the roads have been blocked because of tree uprooting, and they are making efforts to clear those routes. And our teams, they are fully geared up for the post-landfall fallouts of the cyclone. That is basically tree uprooting, road blockage, power restoration, etc. And as soon as the situation permits after the landfall, our teams will be out in full swing so that the services can be restored at the earliest.
That's right, Mr. Rana. The sense that we're getting it is, of course, the first step of this relief in what we've already seen in lakhs of people's evacuation that has been done in the low-lying areas. Now, because the storm is already hit before the landfall, tree uprooting, clearing up of the roads process is currently on there by the NDRF. The next would be, of course, to ensure that the routes remain clear in sending out food and relief packets. Has that already started? When are we expecting that?
Actually, this is being coordinated by the state governments, and we are assisting the state governments in this effort, who are in direct effect of the cyclone. They are being moving to evacuation centers and cyclone shelters in both the states, and adequate fooding arrangements and necessary arrangements, keeping in view the guidelines about the physical distancing in view of the COVID pandemic. They are being also adhered to at the evacuation centers. And when the landfall starts, usually it is advised for everyone to stay inside at a safer place. And as soon as the situation permits, as soon as the wind intensity permits for the teams to move out, our teams will move out and start doing all the restoration work, and also assist the state in distribution of relief material wherever required.
Right. Mr. Rana, also help us understand how much of the evacuation process this time around had to be scaled up multifold, because as you said, that this is in the midst of the pandemic, social distancing measures that had to be followed. Multiple more relief centers, physical space was required for the evacuation camps. This is going to be for the relief centers here as well. So how much of that scale of operations in the initial stage had to be multiplied because social distancing norms had to be maintained?
That's true, because the quantum of space required this time is definitely more. It is almost double than the normal space required for evacuation centers for any cyclone preparedness, because the amount of space required for each individual is almost double that. And keeping that in view, the state governments, they have identified some additional buildings which they have been using as evacuation centers, and added precautions like masks and sanitizers. They are also being provided at the evacuation centers, and NDRF teams, wherever they are going, they are also trying their level best so that these protective equipment can be provided to the community also. And our teams also, they are taking all precautions so that when they move from one place to another, they can advise the people how to remain safe, not only from cyclone, but from the COVID also. And for that, necessary modules have been prepared, and
That's right.
day and night our teams are with the community to make them understand how to minimize the to the best level possible.
Mr. Rana, I request you to please stay on with us. We will be getting in further inputs here from my colleague Apurva, who's been, of course, been getting more details for our viewers. This is specifically for viewers watching in the affected areas, close to the affected areas where the landfall is expected here. The timings of which is now already been known. The radius of the impact of the area that we're looking at. Some of those details coming in. Our correspondent Apurva getting us those inputs. Yes, Apurva, please go ahead.
That's right, Sahar. So Cyclone Amphan, remember, is one of the worst storms over the Bay of Bengal, and this is, of course, going to be making a landfall sometime in the evening. What we know right now and what we can expect is this, that the landfall would be of Amphan will be near the Sundarbans area. It is likely to take place between 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's the time that is when the Cyclone Amphan is likely to make a landfall in the Sundarbans area. Additionally, we also know that this would be category 3 by when the expected wind speed would be of 185 kilometers per hour. The eye of the cyclone is 18 kilometers wide, and it would bypass the Kolkata region. And the cyclone is likely to pass over Taki, which is 60 kilometers east of Kolkata. So these areas will definitely be affected. Now, the peak is expected speed. The wind speed at its peak would be 185 kilometers at the eye wall. And also, about 50 kilometers away at Kolkata, the wind speed is likely to be at 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. Now, this is, of course, extremely important because we are looking at the intensity of the cyclone at this point and the kind of damage it can cause to the areas and the trajectory that it is following at this point. Now, we also know that about 50 kilometers away from Kolkata, the wind speed, which is going to be 80 to 90 kilometers, the cyclone is moving very slowly at the speed of just about 14 kilometers per hour. Also, the cyclone impact on Kolkata would last for about 8 to 9 hours. So this is important. The entire cyclone, if it is the way that it's going to pass and it's the trajectory that is moving, when it passes Kolkata, the impact of it would last to about 8 to 9 hours. So that is important because the region of Kolkata and the people living in Kolkata would be bracing for the impact of this for at least 8 to 9 hours. Also, Kolkata being vulnerable from today evening till May 21st morning. As we said, that we're talking about a slightly longer period. So the impact of it and the vulnerable areas in Kolkata region, it will be felt from today evening when it makes the landfall at that place, and also it will go on till May 21st evening. Now, there would be torrential rains as well during all this time. So all the region that we are talking about will experience torrential rains. And also, lastly, the Sundarbans area and the towns, and these are specific towns of Canning, Taki, Hasnabad, etc., are at high alert zones because this is where the Sundarbans area is where the landfall is expected. So the adjoining areas to Sundarbans and towns of Canning, Taki, Hasnabad, etc. will continue to remain high alert. So this is what we can expect out of Cyclone Amphan, which is going to make a landfall today evening.
All right, Apurva, thank you so much for getting us all of those details, specific inputs, of course, on the affected areas, the affected cities here. Mr. Rana, given that we have information now that as the cyclone hits, as it makes its landfall, it is going to downgrade to category 3, unlike what we were expecting yesterday while studying the movement of the cyclone, which suddenly turned into a super cyclone of category 5. So by the time it makes its landfall, it's going to be downgraded to category 3. Does that come in as minor relief? Does this mean that the scale of devastation expected now is not going to be there? This is further weakened to category 3 as it makes its landfall.
Actually, IMD had already given this forecast, and till yesterday morning, it had the intensity of a super cyclone. But as per forecast of the IMD, at the time of landfall, the intensity is going to be the same as was projected by IMD. And this intensity is also, it has a high potential of causing a lot of damage, especially tree uprooting, damage to the electric poles, kacha houses, tin roofs, loose hanging fittings in houses. This wind velocity, that is 150 km per hour, is a very high, and it has a high potential of causing damage. So all necessary precautions have to be taken till the effects of the cyclone they come down. So
Absolutely.
this is not a it is not a downgrading of the, as per the earlier forecast of the IMD.
All right. So of course, irrespective of the category that we're looking at now, there is going to be no letting in the drop of guard. We are in full form of preparedness there with the NDRF, with the state governments. Mr. Rana, much appreciate you speaking with us. Let's get in further details. This is coming in from the capital city, Kolkata. Despite the landfall, which hasn't come in yet, which is still a couple of hours away, there is already wild weather, heavy windstorm and rainfall that has already been reported there. Our correspondent Shreyasi getting us these details.
Heavy rainfall and gusty winds have already started hitting Kolkata as Cyclone Amphan approaches West Bengal at a gushing speed of approximately 185 kilometers per hour when it makes landfall here in West Bengal between Digha and Bangladesh's Hatia Island later on today in the afternoon. The cyclonic storm is all set to continue till late into the night. Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee along with senior officials monitoring the situation. Over 3 lakh people have been evacuated from the low-lying areas along the coast of West Bengal. South 24 Parganas is expected to be the worst affected district here in West Bengal once the cyclone makes landfall, and along with North 24 Parganas, East Midnapur and West Midnapur. Here, of course, River Hooghly, right next to Kolkata, experiencing high tide already, and it is supposed to rise up to 6 meters in length as per the IMD officials. Of course, all precautionary measures have been taken in place by the administration, ensuring that there is no loss of life. Everyone here in West Bengal have been urged to stay indoors and not step out of their homes, keeping in mind the state is also fighting back the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course the state administration taking all measures to ensure that the cyclone passes with the least amount of damage. But of course one cannot look away from the fact that this is a severe cyclonic storm that is going to hit the coast of West Bengal today. You can see how the river Hooghly has swelled up. You can already start seeing the ships that are anchored, and the barrages that have been anchored here are hardly visible now. It's extremely windy here along the city of Kolkata, and of course the storm is expected to pass approximately 10 kilometers from the city of Kolkata.
All right. On that note, we're slipping into a very tiny breather, but please stay on with us. We're back in just a bit here on The Big Story.